It's now recording. Alright, a nice shot of my rope. Gotta know what the people want to see to start. That's how you rope the viewers in. Sorry, sorry, podcast listeners, you missed out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the very first episode of Connoisseurs on the Record.
Woo!
I'm Ian.
And I am Trey.
We are college friends who just love music and want to do a podcast where we review different albums of different genres, just give our opinions on them, and branch out. No album is off limits, no genre is off limits, and we're just going to have some fun with it. I'm excited. I'm extremely excited.
I am pumped. One thing I'll add, a lot of the albums and the songs we review on here are songs that Ian and I have really grown accustomed to and grown to love over time. But that being said, it doesn't mean we're not going to explore and dip our toes into new genres that we have never really explored before and new artists that we've always been wanting to give a try. So
yeah,
a lot of it could be a little campy with artists that we just happen to enjoy a lot, but we're going to try to spread it out a little bit and spread the love and get some other genres and artists in there too.
That's especially true with the album the very first album that we're doing.
Absolutely.
Because this is a good way to get our feet wet, to kind of establish what we do here, what we're going to be doing before really diving into the deep end and listening to artists and albums and genres that we wouldn't be caught dead touching otherwise.
There's going to be some hiccups along the way, but one thing that's not going to be hard for us to do is review this album and talk about this album. Because to be honest, I feel like half of our conversations anyways revolve around this album and this artist. So this will be, the topic here is going to be the easy part. It's just the technicalities and the technical stuff that might trip us up a little bit.
And that very first album, Panic at the Disco's Death of a Bachelor from 2016. We have a connection with this album. Chances are you've probably listened to it since the time it came out. It came out like January of 2016. How long do you think you've been listening to it?
It wasn't since the first time it came out. I know that. I had only heard one song from this album until like 6 months or so after it came out. And that one song that I heard was Emperor's New Clothes.
Emperor's New Clothes.
Yes.
That one has... I looked up some of the views on the music videos for those, and... believe it or not, well, you probably would believe it, Emperor's New Clothes had the most views out of any music video, with good reason.
If you've seen the video, you know exactly why it has the most views out of any song.
I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it. One of the craziest and most well thought out music videos I've ever seen.
Shout out the Fueled by Ramen makeup department, because they popped off on that video. That was impressive.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to talk about this album. I listened to it. I want to say it was maybe might have been near the end of 2016, around 2017. I know it was like, especially for you, I'm sure, our college soundtrack. I was always listening to that album, every single track.
Yeah, it was definitely on there for me. It was definitely on my constant playlist, but I think I have a different college soundtrack that we'll certainly get into in a future episode. But 100%, and Panic at the Disco has always been an artist where, no matter what stage of life I've been in, they've dropped bangers and they've been a part of that no matter where it's taken me. So I'm excited.
But Death of a Bachelor, would you consider it a perfect album?
Absolutely not. It's got its flaws like every album. Almost every album.
And we're going to get into that.
We are.
But to start out every episode, this is something that we really want to do. We want to give a little bit of a background. I think it's proper to listen to an album and review it and critique it and give your opinion on it with a full understanding of the album, as far as it comes to how it performed on the charts, how it was when it first came out, how the album has done as a whole, and what was going on culturally at the time. Because especially for albums that are older, it's important to pay attention to what was going on in the world at the time, because that could really influence the lyrics and the setting of the album.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that being said, this is the background and a little introduction for Death of a Bachelor. It is the 5th studio album of Panic at the Disco.
Yep.
And it was released in January of 2016, 3 years after their previous album, Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die.
Best album. That's just
He's
my
a big
opinion,
fan.
I happen to be very partial to that album, but continue.
Fun fact, you probably knew this. It completely slipped my mind. Death of a Bachelor was actually the very first Panic at the Disco album as a solo act.
Yeah, just Brendan.
Just Brendan. It became a one-man band. The album debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, earning the band's best sales week and their very first number 1 album.
Really?
The moment
you're telling me
Brendan...
you're telling me none of it, not even their debut studio album, that thing was a hit. That didn't even hit number 1.
Didn't even hit number 1.
Interesting. Okay.
Not from like opening week. I mean, maybe it climbed the charts. I might have to do some research on that. Charts. Might have to do some research, but...
I would not have guessed that. That surprises me, actually. Okay.
It's been certified as of recording. It has been certified double platinum by the RIAA and was the 12th highest selling album of that year.
That's actually impressive.
Very impressive.
Considering you said this came out in 2016, right?
Yes.
2016 was an astoundingly good year for music. Really good music. Everybody talks about summer 2016 because of all the bangers that came out that summer. Everybody's talking about that soundtrack from that summer.
Summer 2016 was different. And that was when someone who was on the airwaves the most was Adele. Because I think which album was it? 21. Was 21 the one that came out? Was that the album's name?
That's quite possible. I know the song of the summer from 2016 for me was Heathens by 21 Pilots. That was huge.
Yeah, that was the Suicide Squad year. Yo, that whole album blew up. Like, Heathens blew up. Sucker for Pain.
That's a good one. That one that G-Eazy did with, I forget what it's called. And it's going to slip my mind.
I've only heard a handful of the soundtrack. I feel like I need to listen to the rest of it.
There's one, and I can't remember what exactly it's called, but it's him and some other woman that sings on it, but it's a really good one,
I was about to make a super dorky reference. I was about to say,
go ahead,
Suicide Squad is almost... I compare Suicide Squad to the 2006 Sonic the Hedgehog video game, where I feel like the studio was just saying, "Oh, hey, is that movie done yet? Movie? I thought we were just making a soundtrack. Okay, just throw some actors and some graphics on there. No one will notice."
It was very kind of Warner Brothers to produce a movie for that astounding album that came out. Because honestly, that's all I like to remember from that fiasco that was Suicide Squad. Was the amazing soundtrack.
Assuming you've probably heard the whole album, have you heard? The one that I'm impartial to is Purple Lamborghini, Rick Ross.
I have heard that one, actually.
I know nothing. I don't listen to Rick Ross. He is not my thing. But that song is really good. It's the one with Skrillex. Skrillex produced it.
Okay, I know Logic.
Got the purple Lamborghini lurking. Rose!
Isn't Logic on one of the... He's not on that song, right?
Not on that song. It's just Rick Ross on Purple Lamborghini.
Logic is on one of those songs. I can't remember. It might be Sucker for Pain, to be honest. I can't remember for sure.
I think it might be.
But that's...
A lot of folks were on Sucker for Pain.
Yeah, that was a big
Which,
song.
Imagine Dragons needs to do more choruses on rap songs.
Yes.
Like, they need to do more hooks on rap songs than they do albums.
They need to... Or just less music until...
I don't have any opinions on Imagine Dragons.
Or just less music until they learn how to make it again, because it's been 5 years since they put out a good project, which was Evolve.
Well, since we've already gone into one of the big things of 2016,
yes.
Since this came out in January of 2016, if we want to talk culturally, I think we'd be a little more accurate to talk about what was going on in 2015, because the year had just wrapped up.
Yep.
The biggest cultural phenomenon at the time, I'm just spitballing a few of them, Hotline Bling.
Oh, yeah,
Hotline Bling dropped. That was one of the big songs of the summer, and the music video was clowned on for the entire year. So many memes, so many impersonations, so many parodies.
I remember we used to sing that song in the locker room before gym class in my junior year of high school, and that's all everyone ever played. Every single day of gym class was Hotline Bling. So that song has stuck in my head forever, and not in a good way. Just a bunch of half-naked high school guys singing that song and doing the dance that Donald Trump was doing on that SNL parody.
Please.
Oh, it was horrible.
Oh, no.
It was awful.
The Force Awakens in that year was attempting to reinvigorate the Star Wars franchise to a new generation.
Yes.
This is not Connoisseurs at the movies, so I'm going to try not to share too much of my opinion on the new Star Wars films. Empire was on every TV set except mine.
Empire.
I have never watched Empire. If you were to ask me what it's about, I cannot tell you.
Okay, yeah.
Empire.
Never seen it either, but I know what you're talking about now.
And everyone was buying tickets to see 50 Shades and Mad Max. And everyone, and I mean everyone was singing and rapping songs from Hamilton.
Was that 2015?
2015 was the year of Hamilton.
Jeez,
Can you believe that?
No, that seems like...
Time is a flat circle.
Ago.
It does not feel like it's been around that long.
Wow. Okay. So that was
2015. I love Hamilton. When it came out, I was sick of everyone talking about it. Like, it kind of started getting worn out the way Frozen did. Mm-hmm. But I love Hamilton now. And I've always loved it.
Do you know what was going on in the sports world in 2015? Because I do, if you would like to know what was going on.
I was about to say, you're about to, you're asking me about something I clearly don't know about.
As a resident Carolina Panthers fan, that was the year we made our second Super Bowl. And Cam Newton, our quarterback, I don't know, this might be a foreign language.
Oh, really? No.
He won the MVP that year.
Carolina Panthers was the only NFL team I grew up with. My dad was a big Panthers fan. And it is the most torturous existence known to man.
It is. No, that was just one brief reprise from a horrible time as a fan of the Panthers. We went 15-1 that year, and we made the Super Bowl. We lost. It was a really good year, and that was the first time in 35 years that Clemson football made the national championship. We lost that as well, but it was a good year for sports. At least for me and anybody living in most people living in our area.
We have the context. We know when the album came out. We know how successful it was. We know that it was nominated for the Best Rock Album at the 2017 Grammys, and the 2018 Billboard Music Awards had generally positive reviews from critics. Okay. That was the last fun fact that I had about the album. Now...
I do not know about the Grammys. That's interesting.
Another thing that I really love to delve into is one of the first things you see when you look at an album is you look at its cover art. And I feel like judging a book by its cover goes the exact same way when it comes to albums. The cover of Death of a Bachelor has the iconic scene of an old-fashioned like sports car in the pool, Brendan Urie passed out on the ceiling, and this all lined with like neon and kind of scribbled.
This is the point for our YouTube viewers where we put the album cover up on the screen, right? So like right here.
Good thumbnail in this general area.
Again, sorry, podcast listeners, you're not going to get quite the
our
same experience.
Audio listeners are going to be like, I want to see it. Why am I getting left out? You can Google it. Just be like, Death of a Bachelor. That's the album art. I think it's a very good album art. I think it definitely, and I think it sets the scene for the album really well.
I don't think Panic has a bad album art, to be honest with you.
Honestly,
they're all pretty good.
Yeah.
Pray for the Wicked's a little. It's definitely the ugly stepsister.
I like the artistic ability. Oh, okay, hang on. You said they don't have a bad album art, but we're forgetting the album that will have come out by the time this drops, but hadn't coming out when this was recorded. Viva Las Vengeance.
Yeah, but it's not out yet, so they don't have a bad one out yet.
That's true.
So right now,
that is true.
Being recorded, they don't have a bad album
art yet. As of press time, they have a spotless record.
That's facts.
We have the context. We have everything that we need. Now, the very last, most important part.
Oh yeah, this is okay. My favorite part. Here we go. Ugh.
Go ahead.
I don't know what we're doing. I assume we're taking our first sip together.
Crank it up and let's get that. Let's get those mics.
Should I put this right in front of the mic to get the best? Okay.
Oh yeah. And now, episode 1 of Connoisseurs on the record.
Yes, sir.
Death of a Bachelor, baby. Let's get into it.
That is so good. Just for the record, anyone listening, Ian, you have a blue moon, right?
I have a blue moon.
I have a Michelob Ultra Amber Max, which I just discovered the other day when I came over to Ian and his wife's house.
Gabrielle.
Yes, Gabrielle. And these things are amazing.
One of the best beers I've ever had, honestly. Though, of course, I'm not the best. I'm not a beer connoisseur. But we'll be drinking all sorts of fun stuff here on this podcast. I think in order to fully appreciate music, you have to have a good beverage.
Oh, of course.
You just have to. It's important to anything.
Absolutely.
Appreciating anything.
Unless you're listening in your car, then you don't need a good beverage before you...
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be an alcoholic beverage.
You can...
if you're going to enjoy something like, hang on, I got to stop by Sonic real quick.
Yes.
Let me get me a limeade, and I'll be set.
That's just a caveat, so we don't get in trouble for anybody who thinks
exactly.
they need to go in.
Exactly. Oh, if our Baptist college professors could see us now.
Oh, don't even get me started. Let's go change the subject. Let's move forward.
Track 1.
Yes.
To kick the album off is the track Victorious.
Victorious.
sounds like something you would hear at a pep rally. It's very chanting, very cheerleaders, just chanting the "Tonight we are victorious."
And I have been, you mentioned at a pep rally, I have been to several sports games for several different teams where after the home team wins, they play that song after the the game is over.
That's the only thing I regret about not being a sports fan.
You'll hear that song a lot.
I haven't heard it at a sporting event yet because I never go to sporting events.
You should definitely come. You'll
if
hear it a lot.
If I were the guy in charge of being a DJ at an event, it would be exclusively playing that and songs like it.
Yeah, 100%.
Exclusively. Now, I think, personally, that this is a perfect album opening. Like, what do you think as far as it comes to being an opener for the album?
I have to agree. I would say it's perfect just because it really sets the tone for what you're going to hear the rest of the way through. You're going to get 35 minutes, I think something like that, 35 minutes of just straight, pure, uncontained energy. And that's the best way I could possibly describe this.
Yeah, I never realized how high energy this album was until going back and re-listening to it, because I honestly haven't touched this album in so long. I actually haven't listened to a lot of Panic lately. I've mostly been listening to the new stuff that has been coming out. Yeah. But after listening to this album all the way through again, I fell in love with it again.
The best way I could describe this album is if you could condense a can of Red Bull into an 11-track LP. That is exactly what Death of a Bachelor is.
That's a perfect description.
There's a couple we'll get to them. There's a couple more ballad type songs, more slow paced. But most of the songs on here, I mean, you don't get a chance to catch your breath. I mean, it just keeps going. It's upbeat the entire way through, which I think Victorious is the perfect album opener because it's basically saying buckle up. This is going to be a bumpy ride.
And I love the production and the instrumentation of it. It's very high energy. Everything just pops. It sounds very full. I love the little looping guitar riff that's based on the
oh yeah, absolutely.
Totally. And then when it gets into the chorus, totally not the Danny Phantom theme. Totally not Danny Phantom. No copyright infringement there.
Not at all. No, I do totally agree, though. I think this is, as far as Panic! The Disco opening tracks go, this is up there with their best. I wouldn't say it's their best, but it's definitely one of the top 2 or 3.
And it pretty much encapsulates how I've felt about Panic. Like, something that I've always loved about Panic, but certainly in this album is where it really hits home. Their choruses are simple, but so easy and fun to sing along to.
Absolutely.
And this one is probably the most fun to sing along with. So
unless you don't know the lyrics, I don't know how somebody could listen to, honestly, hardly any Panic song and not just want to belt the lyrics out the window going 100 miles an hour down the road.
But the thing is, the chorus is so easy to follow. Yeah. From like the first 2 times you hear it, you're next thing you know, like by the 3rd chorus, you're over here pumping your head, and like you just can't help but get into it.
It's another good music video. The music video for Victorious is also great.
Next one to come up is Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time.
Champagne, cocaine, gasoline, and most things in between. I rode the city in a shopping cart, a pack of camels and a smoke alarm.
I'll go first on this one if you want.
No, go right ahead.
I have my opinions on this one. I think to start, you can definitely, this is where you first start to get the vibe that Brendan's been listening to a lot of Beach Boys before making this album. That opening guitar riff for that one is just so 1960s Beach Boys type of...
Oh, you don't know that's actually a sample.
Is it really?
Have you ever heard the B-52s song Rock Lobster?
Probably, if you played it for me. So is it same time period though, right? Is that so? Am I kind of hitting on the right?
B-52s is about maybe 70s or 80s. They're they're the ones that sing Love Shack.
It gives me it puts me kind of I don't know. For some reason, I thought Beach Boys, and I think we'll get towards the Beach Boys towards the middle of the album.
It has a Beach Boys sound. Definitely, it's very beachy. But no, he straight up took it from the B-52s and turned it into.
He likes doing that, doesn't he? He likes taking guitar riffs from other bands and using them in his songs. He did that on.
It works.
Yeah, it does work.
It just works.
He knows when to do it. This song to me is. I don't want to say the lyrics. It's not up to par for Brendan. I don't think this necessarily. I don't think this is one of those songs where you listen to it. I think this is one of those songs, let me say, where you listen to it and you're like, yeah, he doesn't have Ryan Ross helping him write anymore. He doesn't have Spencer Smith helping him write, or Dallin Weeks, like from Too Rare to Live, Too Rare to Die. He doesn't have that anymore. This is one of those songs where I think Brendan listened to an LMFAO album, if you remember LMFAO.
Oh my goodness. And I did not think they'd be in the same conversation as this album.
He listened to a song from them and he's like, you know what? That's pretty edgy, but I can do better. Watch this. And he just threw as many edgy references as he possibly could in there. Just to sound a little hardcore, you know what I mean? I
can kind of see it. That's one of my one of my few gripes about this song. I enjoy the hell out of the song.
Yeah.
But the thing that kind of gets me is how he's really just listing off a bunch of substances, listing off a lot of alcohol, which I'll get into actually a little bit later in some of the notes that I was taking. But I think, for me, I think he tells a pretty good story in the chorus. How basically the whole entire story is one of the craziest nights of like drugs and alcohol and indulging in everything possible, and the torturous morning after. Which, not something that I can fully relate to, but the story that he tells, the kind of stuff, like the pictures that he paints. Look at these footprints, they don't look very human-like. I woke up in my underwear.
Drunk pre-meds and some rubber gloves. 5,000 people with designer drugs.
Designer drugs? What's a designer drug?
I don't know what a designer drug
Yo,
is.
this meth Louis Vuitton.
I don't know what it is.
You can't touch this. So I had no idea that you weren't really a big fan of that song.
I'm not. It's the one from the album that I just like. It's too drastic of a lyrical change from some of the other stuff he's written in the past. And it's too much just, like, is this really Brendan? Is this the type of stuff you sing about? And so it's not personally my favorite. Nothing necessarily against the song, technically. Just personal preference. It's not my favorite.
I do agree that one thing I noticed is in the chorus for this song, it's kind of a peek into the future of when... Especially in his forthcoming album, probably already out when this releases, album, Viva Las Vengeance, it seems like the songs that have come out, it's like he tries to squeeze too many words into a chorus. Either too many or too few and repeat them. But in this one, when he's trying to squeeze in, raise hell and turn it up, saying, if it got money, I'm passing in a drain pipe. Oh yeah.
What is he saying? He's saying,
if you go out, you might pass out in a drain pipe.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Again,
he squeezes a lot of words into it. Granted, I still kind of vibe with it, but you can tell he was really trying to he was so proud of that line, he was really trying to squeeze it into the chorus at the tail end.
Again, sonically, it's a great song, and there's not a bad song. None of the sounds of these songs on this album are bad.
Oh, no, the production is insane.
Yes, I would say maybe it's the best, most well-produced album that Panic's ever put out, but it's just not my favorite in terms of the subject and the lyrical stuff. And again, just personal preference, but not to say that it's not a guilty pleasure of mine every now and then, but just personal preference. It's not my cup of tea.
This is one of those where if it was on shuffle, you'd probably say, I can skip this one.
Yeah, definitely. Unless that opening riff hooked me in, and it does sometimes, so I can't get rid of it, but yeah, it's not my favorite.
How about Hallelujah?
I'll let you take this one first, actually.
Really?
Because I do have opinions on this one, but I'm interested to see what you have to say.
One thing's for sure, it's like after... You can tell from the get-go, like you already mentioned it, how this is a high-energy album. 3 songs in, hasn't slowed down once. No. Like, sure, this one's a little more low-tempo, but it still has the same kind of oomph that the other two have.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, as far as the lyrics go, I think this one is a little more lacking for me. I enjoy... Brendan is one of those where I like the way he says things, but I don't know. I feel like he could be talking about more. And this song seemed like a generic "I'm talking about a woman" type song, which I would put "Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time." I would actually put that one higher above Hallelujah, solely because it talks about more than just, oh, you're a girl and I'm singing about you, even no matter how poetic and approachable it is.
And that's the thing. That's one of the things for me with Brendan and with Panic that recently I've become more, I don't know if you feel the same way, kind of turned off by, is you listen to some of the songs and you're just like what are we singing about? Like what are we talking about here? Like this is some of the stuff that classifies you as a generic pop artist when you guys, back when you were a band of 4, made a living off of the way you were writing your lyrics, and like people would look at you and listen to your songs and be like, how did they come up with this? I still, for their first 2 or 3 albums, I listen to some of that and I'm like, what kind of drugs were they on writing this? Because this is beautiful and crazy at the same time.
Yeah.
Some songs, like you said, like Hallelujah, and I mean, even some songs on this album, but definitely moving past Death of a Bachelor. Again, it's like, what are you talking about, Brendan? Like, what are you singing about? What are you, like, what's the message here? There's got to be at least, not every song needs an underlying message. Not every song needs this big, grandiose, thing you're trying to speak about and sing about. But some songs like this, for me, they just don't do it for me. It just feels like you said.
Yeah.
It's like I'm singing about a girl. I want this one to go to radio, which is why it was the lead single, I think.
But even with that, I mean, the way he says some stuff is really good.
What line specifically are you?
I really like
to?
when he said it's a simple line leading into the chorus every time. Being blue is better than being over it. Kind of saying, oh, it's better to be feeling an emotion over something than just be completely numb.
I totally.
So
agree
he,
with that.
even in his more lyrically lackluster songs, he still finds a way to put some sort of something meaningful in there.
Yeah.
Even if you do need to search for it, which I noticed in some later albums.
You definitely need to search for it.
I've done some serious research.
Still found nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to say, one thing that I remembered about this is the fact that it's Hallelujah, obviously not a gospel song, not gospel oriented at all, but the way the song is formatted and the choir in the background, he makes it sound like a gospel song. Do you notice that?
I agree with
How
that.
it has the Hallelujah in the background, very brass heavy, very stomping, and even at the end when he's singing the chorus for the last time, all the music cuts out. And it's kind of like stomping and just the choir singing. It really sounds like the way you would end some sort of really highfalutin church service.
I totally agree. A lot of artists have those kind of songs these days. And again, I think this is him kind of drawing back. He was definitely drawing back to some older decades when he was writing this album, some of the sounds from those older decades. And I think this is an example of that. But no, I do love the sound of this one, and I do love the way it does draw back to those gospel roots, like you were mentioning.
That'll be a recurring thing, just enjoying the way a song sounds, because there's not a single song where there's not a single song on here that would come on, and I would hear it in the background and think, if I'm not paying attention to it, and think I'm just gonna skip it. None of those, because
I disagree with that one, but I will.
Really?
Oh yeah, I definitely disagree with that one. Okay.
All right.
Not to be that guy.
Emperor's New Clothes.
Oh,
one
absolutely
of them.
not. This is one of my favorite Panic songs of all time. Not a second on this song is wasted.
Taking back the crown. I'm all dressed up and naked. I see what's mine and take it. Oh, yeah.
Like, he gets straight into it from the start, and I mean, again, the production of this one is just absolutely top notch. It literally feels like if Broadway did a horror production, this would be the type of song that would be the lead song for the production. It is amazing. And the bridge where you get those demonics, kind of angelic slash demonic voices. It's really one of those
showstopper songs.
Oh, it literally, I'm telling you, it comes to a point where you're just like, it makes you feel like you can just go take on the world after hearing this song. I love it so much.
If I Write Sins Not Tragedies was never written, I could see him closing concerts with this song.
Fun fact, now that you mentioned that, on his last tour, before the encore, he did close with that song.
Really?
Pray for the Wicked tour. He closed with that song before the encore. I think the encore must be when he plays I Write Sins Not Tragedies.
Sins, yeah.
But Emperor's New Clothes is the one that he closes before he goes out, goes off stage, and then the crowd says encore, encore. He comes back out, then he plays 2 more.
So many people love that song, and yet it's still so underrated.
Oh, I agree.
Like, you never hear it.
You
never hear It Before High Hopes. You never hear It Before I Write Sins. All the other smash hits.
Yeah.
But it's got to be one of his best songs. And I really think it is one of his absolute best songs. I love going back and listening to it and analyzing it. It's so funny how when it comes to having the homework of analyzing these songs, I appreciate them so
with
much.
Air quotes around it. This is the best homework I've ever received in my life.
No, it'll end up being homework with some of these artists. Probably end up doing, I guarantee you. But listening to it and analyzing it, I never realized just how good of a story it tells. Like, he introduces the concept so well. The song just sounds so perfectly creepy with, like, instead of angelic, like, gospel choruses, it has this kind of demonic chorus. Welcome to my world. It sounds
I guess that's the word. I think I might have said demonic, but it's hard to even describe. Like,
it sounds like a choir of demons. It sounds...
That's it. That's a great way of looking at it.
The song sounds otherworldly. Like,
Yeah.
the way the choir sounds, the visual I get is it's just a bunch of demons singing while he's like above them and they're like kind of worshiping.
Again,
like,
if you haven't seen the music video for this, they literally could not. Yeah, they couldn't have made a more appropriate music video than they did for this song.
And
it fits it so
and
well.
The detail that went into it. I don't want to spoil it. If you haven't seen the music video, go and watch it. Even if you're not a big fan of the song, the music video is second to none. Oh. It's incredible. But I love the story it tells, and I love it paints a beautiful picture of hell.
Oh, it's exactly what it does.
It really is exactly
It's exactly what it does. I can't describe it any better.
And I also noticed there's kind of, I don't know if he did this intentionally, but I feel like Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time going into this song, they complement each other really well.
Is it Hallelujah?
No, Hallelujah's in between, but I think conceptually, Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time going into this one is perfect, because in Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time, he's talking about all this overindulgence in drugs and alcohol and things like that, and it's almost like through all of that, he's become such a sinner that he believes he should be the champion of hell, and then go into this song. I really feel like they go hand in hand really well.
It's honestly good insight. I haven't even thought of that.
Yeah, I'm awesome. Telling you, man. When I was listening to this, I was like comparing it to the rest of the album, I'm like, dude, I'm noticing a recurring theme with this album. But even though sometimes it's a little overwhelming, in this instance, it really came together perfectly.
For a much more simpler, I mean, that's really in depth, and I wish I could go that in depth. I would say, like, again, for this album as a whole, it's full of songs that you'd listen to on the bus ride before a big game. That's what I would say this album is.
It's definitely a pump up album.
It's a pump up hype album, and that's the best way I get. And this song is a perfect example of that. It gets you going.
It's a Death of a Bachelor.
I like the message of this one. I think it's cool because obviously I think, if I'm not mistaken, Brendan had just gotten married to his wife, Sarah, not too recently before that, but it was 2013, and I guess this came out in 2015, the single. Did this come out as a single? Or was this a...
Oh, yes, it came out as a single.
This was a single? Okay.
It might have been the second or third single, I believe.
Okay. Well, this was a really, really good, well-written song, and I thought it's still one of my favorites on the album. And this is the first song that I think really caught the world by storm when they heard, like, holy cow, Brendan Urie can sing the heck out of some tune. He can sing the heck out of some songs.
And
man.
I enjoyed
His
singing
vocals.
this. I had the opportunity to sing this one a couple times.
Really?
And I sang it at this little, there was a talent show back at college that, not talent, kind
That's
of a talent show, kind of a performance that nobody went to. I performed for an audience of 2, and they planned this event out so much.
What was it called? I don't remember this.
Oh, I forget. It's not worth remembering. But
I'm kind of upset.
I sang, I'm pretty sure I sang Death of a Bachelor. If not, I do remember singing it in a Ruby Tuesdays parking lot at one point.
For who?
For my wife.
Oh, that's sweet.
This is before we were with company. We were out eating with folks, and the topic of me singing came up. And Gabrielle's just like, oh, well, he can sing for you. I'm like, don't put me on the spot like that. This is back when I was still super insecure. And it ended up being pretty good.
Yeah, put on a show for us in this Ruby Tuesdays parking lot. Go right ahead.
I should have sang Ruby Tuesday by the Rolling Stones. That's what I should have done.
That's a perfect.
If only
You sang this song.
I knew that song.
You sang this song to your wife's
I
family.
did. I love singing the song, and she loves when I sing this song.
This is one of those. Another big influence on this album, I think, was Frank Sinatra for him.
I put that in my notes.
Okay.
Frank Sinatra, huge Sinatra influence.
Yeah.
I also noticed that coming back a little later in the album, but specifically in this one, very Sinatra-esque, and how in the music video is set up. They totally set it up to be kind of a Sinatra vibe. The fact that it's in black and white and everything feels very old school.
This was a song I would say this is just for Brendan to flex, to be honest with you. Flex his vocal cords. And he did just that, and he did it really well.
See, for me, okay, I don't think there's any song on the album that I've had as much notes for as I did for this one. because
Death of a Bachelor?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I started listening to it, and obviously I jammed to this song when it first came out. I wore this song to death. I loved it so much. But it's not until listening to it again that I actually started understanding the lyrics to it and listening to the kind of stuff he's saying. Because I listened to this back in like 2016, 2017, and 3 or 4 years later, I'm married now.
Yeah.
And going back and listening to the song, it's incredible the kind of painting that he does. Because just Death of a Bachelor in of its own is a very interesting illustration. The term Death of a Bachelor. It's a very interesting way of saying that he's putting death to his old lifestyle, the single lifestyle, the kind of partying bachelor lifestyle.
Which is hilarious given track 2 on this album being all about the party lifestyle and all about champagne, cocaine, gasoline.
How far apart were these songs written, Brendan?
I'm getting the feeling that this is like he didn't really plan this out in terms of the track listing and how he was going to put all these albums into songs into a story together. But no, I
or
totally
he
get
wrote
what you're
this
saying.
song last and then named the album after it to make up for it.
Yeah,
He's
there you
like,
go.
okay, I'm sorry.
Or he still participates in the party lifestyle. You know what?
I mean,
That's
hey,
his
no judging.
It's his life.
Do
you
it
know?
however you want. Do it whenever you want.
Not
you
ours to
know?
judge. Exactly.
You can do what you want. But Death of a Bachelor, it's so interesting that he's like, the old side of him is dying and this new one is being brought up, but he's not mourning the old lifestyle. He's not looking back and thinking, oh man, back when my bachelor days. No, he said it's the death of a bachelor. And the thing that stuck out for me the most is when he said, seems so fitting for happy ever after. How could I ask for more? The one that sticks out for me, a lifetime of laughter at the expense of the death of a bachelor. That really gets me because I kind of have a hard time listening to love songs. 90% of the songs I listen to, not love songs at all, don't even have a love message. And I know that's a majority of what songs are ever about anymore.
It's true.
I have trouble listening to them because all these like, oh, you're my icky sticky honey bun kind of.
Yeah. I love Icky Sticky Honey Buns. Favorite song, dude. Yeah, absolutely. No,
all
I get
these
what you're
kind
saying.
of ooey gooey love songs. Oh girl, I love you and I love you more than I love you.
You
Or
mean
I
just
can't-
pop, like 75% of pop radio is what you're saying, basically.
all of Drake's catalog, yes.
Oh, 100%.
And all the
okay,
Biebs.
caveat. Drake's got some really good songs. I don't want to be that guy. He's got some
yeah, he
fantastic
does.
stuff.
He
It's not all
does.
about love.
He's just
I happen to enjoy Drake's music a little bit.
passion fruit, not my vibe. More of a mango guy.
Understandable.
But A Lifetime of Laughter is one of the simplest and most beautiful illustrations of marriage that I've ever heard.
Yeah.
Because a lot of love songs, they focus on the feeling of love. They focus on feeling loved, being loved, showing love. Marriage is the small things. Marriage is not just a feeling. It's not just going through life always feeling the same. Like, you're going to go through trials. You're going to go through struggles. We go through them every single day. But a lifetime of laughter. Even on our worst days, if we're not laughing, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
We're laughing every single day. And so after listening to this again, this might be in one of my top 5 love songs of all time.
Interesting.
Because no one talks about the quirky, fun sides of marriage and like love in general.
Yeah.
Another one is, I'm gonna have to have you listen to this. You haven't heard it yet. Bo Burnham released a song called 5 Years, and it's about his girlfriend, and it is a hilarious song. But not only because of the stuff he says in it, but the fact that if you have been in a relationship like that, you realize, yeah, he's just stating facts. That's the kind of stuff that you talk about. It's the kind of stuff you fight about, and it's just goofy and fun, and that's how it's supposed to be.
And this is interesting to me because I'm not married and I'm not in a long-term committed relationship like that. So this is all good insight for me that I didn't know this was what marriage was like. I didn't know that
Marriage
this is how you view marriage and
little
love.
things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All it is. It's quite simply, it's just enjoying life together and living life with another person whom you want to live that life with.
Yeah.
And A Lifetime of Laughter is just the perfect way to encapsulate it. So this might be one of my favorite songs on the track solely because it really tugs on my heartstrings now, having been a husband.
And I enjoy and I appreciate just how well Brendan does every type of song on this album. He's got the super hype ones. He's got the energetic, the ones that you just want to run through a wall after you listen
ones
to.
That
and
are more rock influence, some that
Yeah.
are more pop influence, and kind of getting in Daft Punk territory in some moments.
Yeah, and he's got the crooning type of Frank Sinatra love songs that have a really good message to him. He doesn't miss on any type of song that he does on this album, which I'm very impressed by.
So safe to say, Death of a Bachelor, as a track, definitely a winner.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
Perfect title track.
Next up, Crazy equals Genius.
If crazy equals genius, then I'm a fucking arsonist. I'm a rocket scientist. If crazy equals genius.
I like this one. A lot.
Really?
I do. I
Okay.
like this one a lot. And this is what I was talking about with the Beach Boys. He obviously makes reference to two members of the Beach Boys. And
I'm glad that you understood that, because
Yes.
I did not. I actually had to look it up. I don't know anything.
that gave me some confirmation that he actually is paying tribute to them and using reference to
I
these
don't
guys.
know a darn thing about the Beach Boys.
I don't really either. They had a song.
I didn't recognize any of the names. I've been listening to this song for like 5 years, and I had never understood who he was talking about.
I'm not a huge Beach Boys fan. I'm not a Beach Boys fan at all, to be honest with you. Not that I don't like them. I just haven't really listened to their music. I only know that they had a song in a movie called 50 First Dates with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore.
Oh my God, Gabrielle loves.
Oh, does she really?
Loves that movie.
Oh, it's a great movie. It's a comfort movie. It's one of the best rom-coms, I
She
guess,
loves
if they
that
call
one.
those.
One of Sandler's best movies, definitely.
Absolutely. They have great chemistry, him and Drew Barrymore. Anyways, they have a song. One of their big songs, Wouldn't It Be Nice, is like the main song in that movie.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yes.
Yeah, Beach Boys is one of those where I never listened to them, barely know anything about them.
You still heard him somehow.
Yeah, but when one of their songs comes on, I ain't gonna be like, Beach
Yeah.
Boys, lame. No, it's good stuff.
You respect people that kind of laid the groundwork for music you listen to today, and I think that's what Brendan does in this song. It's very upbeat. Again, it's right back to where we left off with the upbeat and just super energetic types of songs that he was putting on before. But I really like this one. I think lyrically this is one of his better ones on the album. I think it's very, very chaotic. It's one of the most chaotic Panic songs ever. It's definitely...
Well, crazy equals genius. He really plays into the crazy.
He does. I described this when I was thinking about it. I said, this is the type of song that I could totally see playing during the sinking of the Titanic.
This pillow is killing my back. Sorry, I've been...
You're good, but this is one of those that I think is... if it was playing during the sinking of the Titanic, I wouldn't even bat an eye because it just fits. It's just chaos, crazy.
I noticed immediately from the doom-ka-doom-ka-doom-ka-doom and like the brass
opening
section
drum
when
line,
it first comes in, total big band influence.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
one of my favorite things about Panic is this is something that they've done all throughout their career. They always draw influence from, so to speak, the glory days of music. There's big band influences on here. There's a lot of Baroque influences in Fever You Can't Sweat Out, their very first album. In fact, some people more often than not categorize it as Baroque pop, at least the second half of it.
Okay.
First one's more electronic pop, second half is more Baroque pop, and it splits genres in the middle. A lot of like psychedelic Beatles influences in Pretty Odd. So they always end up going back to influences from different genres of yore. So I love that they keep up with that theme with this song.
Yeah.
That being said, I think it's the weakest point of the album.
Do you really?
I really
That
think
surprises
so.
me.
I really think so. Now, don't get me wrong. I love the heck out of the song. It's a very fun song. More often than not, I probably will not skip it. And I enjoy the lyrics of it to play into the crazy equals genius, how those are kind of different things. And he really plays into the back and forth yin and yang kind of stuff in his lyrics. Like when he says he's an arsonist, he's a rocket scientist, and he's always going back and forth between I'm this, but I'm also that.
Yeah.
This happens, but then when it happens,
He's crazy,
like
but he's
this.
also a genius.
Exactly. So he's always swapping back and forth, kind of a Jekyll and Hyde type deal. I kind of likened it to back when I was in high school and I was in choir, and our choir did a arrangement of the old song "Oh Susanna." And then
I've heard that song before.
"Oh
Sorry, it took me a second.
Susanna,
Yes.
don't you cry for me," and ends up saying, "It rained all night the day I left. The weather it was dry. The sun so hot I froze to death. Susanna, don't you cry." I've always loved contradictory lyrics
Yeah.
like that, where it's so simple. You're just like, you know what? Let me just keep contradicting myself and just keep doing this and that, this and that. And it's just entertaining. Thing is, though, I feel like, I don't know, One of the things is I started getting a little tired of, I love the jazz breakdown that happens, and I love all the horns and everything. It's a great vibe. Sonically, incredible. I was getting really tired of hearing "You Can Set Yourself on Fire."
Really?
Over
Okay.
and over.
Okay.
He says it 12 times, but it feels like so much more. Especially near the end, like when the whole doonka doonka, like we're getting more drum beats and like leading into the final chorus. It's just, you're hearing this great brass section, this great bumping drum. It's like, oh, this is a great little instrumental part. The whole time in the background, you can set yourself on fire. You can set yourself. We get it, Brendan. I'm trying to listen to an incredible saxophone solo here. I don't need you to keep saying it. I got the point the first 20 times you said it.
Now this, as much as I want to agree, I do happen to think, and maybe it is heavy on that specific part of the chorus and whatnot, but I do think that this is one of the more well-written songs on the album. I think this one kind of draws back to some of the writing, the quality of some of the writing that Brendan and the old members were doing back on, Vices.
Yeah, the writing is great. And again, like I always say, I love the way Brendan says things.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It just wasn't hitting the way the other ones do. And sometimes I just don't know how to explain it.
Some songs just don't hit, and I totally get that. Some songs bore you to death. I don't think this one bores you to death because it's super upbeat and exciting.
No, it doesn't. Oh, yeah. It's like I said, it's one of those that I can turn on in the background and just really bop to it, really enjoy it. And maybe it's just because I was analyzing it that You Can Set Yourself on Fire was bothering me. If my brain is shut off and I'm just enjoying the song, the fact that it didn't bother me until now says something.
Fair enough. We will agree to disagree on that one, as that is one of my favorites on the album, but we can move forward, and we can still be friends.
Now, how about L.A. Devotee?
This... I actually want to hear you first this time.
Really?
I want to hear you first.
Okay.
I'm very curious what you think about this one.
I really like it. I think it might be one of my favorites on the album. What do you think?
It is my favorite on the album.
It is your favorite on the
song
album?
on the album, yes.
Okay, I was about to say, I saw the look in your eye like when you were telling me to go, and I wasn't sure.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't going to tell me this was like your... Now that you said Crazy Equals I didn't want this to be like number 10.
Oh, no, now you're really questioning it. Oh, he said Crazy Equals Genius was a weak point? I'm really questioning his judgment.
Exactly.
I'm not sure where he's going to go from here. No, I'm not a complete sadist. I love this song.
This is a great song. Brendan does... It's the first album of 2, I guess, and maybe, I don't know if there's going to be another one on Viva Las Vengeance where he talks about LA and the lifestyle.
I'm kind of wondering if he will, because
lifestyle
the whole thing is about Vegas. Like, the whole concept of the new album is about Vegas. So I'm not sure if he'll end up mentioning LA.
Yeah, it's a really, really well-produced song, and I love the way it turns on at the beginning. It almost sounds like it's coming from an old record player. I love that. And I love
I'm a sucker for songs that start with a really hitting drum beat. So it comes in, and then you're like, oh, we're about to get into it, and just goes right into it. When during the pre-chorus, when he's like the static palms melt, the kind of backing and the harmonies on his voice is very haunting when you listen to it, and it really plays into how the music video is, where he's a cult leader. Yeah. Essentially, LA is like a cult, and it really has this kind of haunting, creepy vibe, as if someone is being kind of ushered into it, like, oh, come join us.
Glad you brought up the music video, obviously, because it's got Noah Schnapp from Stranger Things in it.
I haven't seen it in so long. I didn't know that was Noah Schnapp. Yeah,
he's a big fan, and Brendan knew that, and he got him to do that.
No wonder when I was researching about this song that one of the top searches was, who's the kid from the music video? I'm like, why are people asking that? Wow.
Will Byers himself.
That is awesome.
Like it could be the video feels like it could be a lost episode of Stranger Things in the first place. It's very, very
I was about
creepy.
To say, Will just can't catch a break.
No,
first he ends up being brought into a cult, and then he gets possessed by the Mind Flayer. Homie just cannot. No, he cannot catch a break.
But I think the reason I love this one so much is because this is one of the best choruses Brendan's ever written in his life.
Oh, yeah.
Black Magic on Mulholland Drive, Centerfolds in the Desert Sky. I love that. I mean, it's just so... It's poetic.
Is it swimming pools under... I thought it was swimming pools under Desert Sky.
I want to say it's centerfolds. Like, that means attractive women, I think.
I know what I know what a centerfold
I just
is.
want to
Haven't seen one.
I've been singing centerfolds for like the past 6 years, so I hope I'm right.
I am actually legit going to look this up because you and I, this is the first disagreement as far as it comes to lyrics. Swimming pools under desert skies. Go back and listen to it, bro.
No, hold on. I don't believe this. Hold on, I don't believe this.
Yo,
let me get a peek. Hold on.
Are we getting we have a bit of a Mandela effect going on here, man?
No, I could have sworn it was centerfolds. It's not.
Hey, don't be putting centerfolds in my search history,
Sorry,
bro.
that's my bad.
I have a life. What are you doing?
The things I do to prove myself right, and I'm wrong.
Oh,
Swimming pools is still a great lyric, as much as that. It's still really well written. It's just
burns you to have come so close.
It does burn me. Not only that, but I feel like I've been lied to this entire, like, I know I saw it somewhere. That said centerfolds, and it might have just been like one wrong website.
Are you thinking of that 80s hit by the Jay Giles Band? Angel is the centerfold. Have you heard them in the shuffle at the same time, back to back?
I've never heard that in my life, so I don't think that's what it is.
You've never heard centerfold? Mm-mm. Oh, that's one of my favorite 80s songs.
I feel like I'm exposing myself here, but no, I have not. And no, I get okay. Well, aside from the point, okay, you win that one. Whatever. Anyways, swimming pools in the desert sky. Yes, it's just a really well written chorus, and it flows so well. And I love the way it sounds. It's beautiful.
This is the first song of the whole album where I noticed that I've listened to this song for so long, but I don't think I've actually really understood it. He says a lot. I mean, obviously, I understand what it's about. I understand he's just really painting a picture about LA, the good and the bad. Incredible chorus, incredible verses. There's nothing about this song that I can't get into. It's definitely one of my favorites. I don't know if might be my favorite on the album too. I'm really not sure.
Really?
But I really love it. I can't find a bad spot with it.
It's a great song.
But I was looking up some of the lyrics because I just think I kind of filled in the blanks. I never realized when he says sunsets on the evil eye. Apparently, I thought the evil eye was like some sort of LA landmark.
That was like an Illuminati type thing.
See, no, apparently, like, from what I saw, evil eye is like, you're kind of giving someone the evil eye, kind of giving someone a malicious look. In some cultures, that could be harmful to others, sometimes caused by jealousy. So, oh my God.
Your cat's really trying to get in. Your cat wants to
You can't see it on camera. We have 4 cats in this house, and Billy Joel is trying to get under the door.
That's the name of one of his cats, by the way. It's not actually Billy Joel.
No, we actually locked Billy Joel in the closet, and he's like, I'm not getting out till you review one of my albums.
Podcast listeners are having a trip about that one. Yeah, Billy Joel's trying to climb under our door.
Yo, what? They got Billy Joel on there? And then when he says, the black tar palms keep weeping your name, I wasn't even thinking that black tar, he's talking about one of LA's finest exports, black tar heroin.
I didn't even know that. I would have never
He's
known
referencing that. So apparently black tar heroin is most often distributed in Los Angeles. So he ends up, he kind of sneaks in a little bit of the bad of it while saying black tar palms. Like, we have these beautiful palm trees, but hey, we also have some drugs going on here.
I think the whole underlying message of the song is that, I mean, he's not glorifying what it means to be an LA devotee. It's honestly more of a prequel to dying in LA than anything else, because the more you become enslaved to that culture, the more likely it's going to kill you.
Dying in LA from Pray for the Wicked, the album that came after this one. The closing track. No, I didn't even think. I'm going to have to listen to those back to back, because there probably are some parallels there. I'm going to listen to this
song again so I know the lyrics, because clearly I don't.
And when he says Pisces and Aries rising, I didn't realize that apparently when it comes to zodiac, or what is it, horoscopes, astrology, whatever, apparently a rising sign in astrology is the way you appear to people before they realize who you really are. So it's a first impression. So a rising sign apparently is something that it kind of plays into the song. How, like, for one, it was Aries rising. Someone could interpret, as far as it comes to astrology, a rising Aries, you see someone as an Aries, but you really aren't. That could be a way of you having to find courage and find strength and bravery and stuff. I don't follow any of this stuff. I legit had to look it up. So if I sound like I know what I'm talking about, I don't.
I did not know
I was
that,
just really curious about the lyrics. And turns out it's a rising sign in astrology.
I feel like you're the kid that studied really hard for his test and is like getting an A right now, and I'm the kid that clearly crammed 10 minutes beforehand and does not quite know nearly as much about what he's talking about as you do.
This is how I've always been. Whenever I'm super interested in something, I don't only want to know it, I want to understand it. Like, I really, really want to understand what's going on and everything about it so I can fully appreciate it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
So now if I go back and listen to this song again, I'm going to be hearing it in a completely different light. But either way, the lyrics, the fact that there's so many hidden meanings in the lyrics, it's so poetic in that regard, and I can't see anything wrong with it production-wise and instrumentally. Definitely, I think, best on the album.
It's a top-tier song. Absolutely. That one and Emperor's New Clothes are very close for me.
Ooh,
very close.
Oh, I don't know which one.
1A and 1B is the way I would describe that.
1A and 1B, that's fair. I cannot put them 1 or 2.
Oh, I can't either. It's too tough.
Now what about Golden Days?
We'll stay drunk, we'll stay dead, let the love remain, and I swear that I'll always praise you. Golden Days.
This is the throwaway track on the album for me. I don't like this one. Don't even like. It's not even a matter of don't even think it holds up to the rest of the album. I just don't like this one as a song. The way you feel about Brendan saying, what was it that you pointed out earlier? He said something
you can set
too
yourself
much.
on fire.
If he says the word, if he screams "Golden Days" at the top of his lungs one more time, my ears are gonna blow out.
Okay, that part I can agree on.
This is where
it's very impressive when he first does it, but as he's going on,
it doesn't.
I'm like, how is he doing that with his voice so often?
It's one of those where I think he tried a little too hard vocally. And he tried to really. He didn't need to. I don't feel like. I didn't think this was a song where it's not the best. It's not the most well written song. It's a little lackluster, according, in my opinion, up to Panic standards.
I'm gonna have to disagree.
That's fair.
Okay. To Panic standards, if you're comparing it to the kind of
I'm comparing it to the rest of the songs on this album, to be fair.
On this album,
yeah.
Okay, you'll notice I'm a big fan of storytelling songs.
Yeah.
I liked the story this one told.
That's fair.
In fact, I think this...
Found a pile of Polaroids.
It tells such a great story. It illustrates it so well. He describes the pictures he's seeing. And when it like goes completely silent when he's doing the pre-chorus, how the lights begin to fade and it starts bringing in, I think that is the best way he could have ever done the chorus, and it gives a reminiscent vibe and really accomplishes what he's trying to, the story it's trying to tell. This is such a well illustrated song. I think it should have gotten a music video instead of Hallelujah. That's what I think.
Fair enough.
I think it should.
So you think this should have been a single too in that case?
I definitely think it should have been a single. I think it was really, really underrated, personally.
It doesn't hit for me.
I have not swayed you at all.
It doesn't hit. It just doesn't hit for me. It's one of those where it's a little harder to explain. It just doesn't hit for me. It doesn't do as much as some of the other songs on the album.
Man.
It's not incredible to me, at least lyrically. It's not incredible to me production-wise. It's not incredible. The sound of it it's one of the most boring sounding songs on the album, in my opinion.
That is fascinating.
And we'll get to the next one too, but I would say that this is probably my least favorite on the album, this song.
Okay, well, since you mentioned it, Good, the Bad, and the Dirty, where's that one rank?
My second least favorite on the album. I think this is the weak part of the album where
that one I can agree with.
Wanna make it through the night, better say my name like the good, the bad, and the dirty.
I can agree that Good, the Bad, and the Dirty, one of the more underwhelming songs. But this one, I also noticed there were a lot of poetic lyrics that I never fully understood. I like how this song is just a basic kind of head bopper. You're able to bop your head to it. Kind of little subtle, like, hip-hop hi-hats in the background to kind of still make it, oh yeah, I'm doing some different stuff here, but here's some familiar little hi-hats, so it's still a little more approachable.
Yeah.
How he kind of puts in modern elements even when he's branching out, so people are still able to be like, okay, yeah, I'm used to sounds like that. Yeah. But apparently this song is about the good, the bad, and the dirty parts of being a touring artist.
Did not know that. Again,
I didn't
you've
know.
done so much more research on this. I'm embarrassed of myself. I've done like no research into the deeper meaning behind these lyrics. I'm just kind of spitballing
Tell you,
here.
man, I really wanted to understand it.
So you say this is he's talking about being a touring artist and I guess being away from his wife a lot? Is that what he's saying?
Truth is this was always going to end. The symphony buzzing in my head. He said his musical career and his musical talent, it's going to end eventually, so he might as well make a dime while he has the chance.
Interesting.
And when he says all the good girls are always so good until one of them doesn't wait their turn.
Never understood that line. What does that mean?
Turn the memory into stone and carve your shoulder. Apparently, like, everyone can behave so much and can be so good and proper and behave the way they're supposed to until, you know, they want to get something that they want, or they're able to, maybe something changes them and stuff like that. So people change. And so he said, turn the memory into stone and carve your shoulder. It's his way of saying, tattoo it on you while you're still good. Like, keep that memory of them being good and tattoo it on you so you still have it, because it ain't gonna last.
Okay, interesting. I would have never picked that out. I would have never. That's one thing about Panic's lyrics. I think the mystique and the mystery behind them is what makes them so great most of the time. So I just honestly choose not to even dive into the deeper meaning behind them, because I think having that, you know, curtain pulled over what he's actually saying kind of adds to the enjoyment of the music.
Well, I'm about to blow your mind with this one, because in the second verse, he kind of pulls the curtain back and talks a little more in depth and a little more personal about his career and the phases of it without you even noticing.
Yeah, I didn't notice. I was oblivious.
He says, I know what it's like to have to trade the ones you love for the ones you hate. Panic is a solo act now, but they went through so many band members prior. When they had that four-man outfit back during, just before Vices and Virtues, I would say around Fever and Pretty Odd, was when they were a four-man group. They were a full band. They really had some incredible creativity and songwriting going. All of them have dropped off, and they tried to replace it, and none of them had really hit, and none of them clicked the way the original four did. So he's mentioning that, and then how he says he's never used a day of his education. They met in school.
They did.
But he's never used any of it because he's just gotten famous off of his singing. He never used any of that education that he was getting while trying to get by getting the band started.
No,
and now he has the final judgment because it's just him now.
Huh. Okay.
Right?
That actually
Doesn't that change your mind on the song a little bit?
It does change my mind a little bit. It's still not one of my favorites. It's just, again, it's one of those that sounds a little bit basic to me. But it's nice to know that Brendan does acknowledge the fact that he has been through a lot of different band members. It's kind of odd that he is now the solo remaining member after just 9 or 10 years. He's been through, it would have been 5 different members of the band at that point, because they added Dallin after Vices and before Too Ready to Live. It's good that he acknowledges that, because I think a lot of people these days at least, give Brendan some slack and they give him some hate, because the most recent, and again, this album hasn't come out yet, he's got a song called Local God where a lot of people think he's throwing shade at Ryan Ross.
More than likely, by the time this drops, we would have already put out a TikTok kind of putting our opinion of the album out there.
Yeah.
Because I know we got to react to that album at some point.
It's just, it's nice that there's a bit of a more positive kind of reflection song about his past bandmates and the relationship they had and them growing up and going to school together. And
so lyrically, I enjoy the song. I agree. Like,
I'll bump it up because you gave me that explanation.
But instrumentally and kind of compared to the rest of the album, I would agree. Sound wise, it's a little weaker.
Yeah.
But lyrically, when you really dig into it, it's actually kind of a meaningful song.
I do like the horns in this song, I will say.
One of my main gripes is the bridge near the end. It delves off. It just gets so sexual. I forgot what you feel like. Something about under me,
You've
under
been gone
you.
for so long, but I'm not going to think about that right now. I'm going to keep getting underneath you.
Getting underneath you, yeah. And turns out, Brendan actually said in an interview that this song kind of became a little more meaningful than he meant for it to be. Because I think originally Good, the Bad, and the Dirty, he was meaning for it to actually be a more sexual song. And the bridge kind of reflects that. But then he started adding more lyrics to it, and it became deeper and had a deeper meaning and a little more transparent than he originally planned. I just wish that the bridge reflected
Wait a minute.
how the song is usually
Are
interpreted.
we sure that the bridge isn't supposed to represent the dirty? Then the second verse isn't supposed to represent the bad, and the first isn't supposed to represent the good. Are we sure?
I've also heard the opinion that good, bad, and dirty are the three kinds of people that you come across in the music business. You come across good people, bad people, and dirty people. So there's a lot of ways you can pick this song apart, but I think where he's talking about his past and the band and how now he's solo, he has the final judgment, I know without a shadow of a doubt that's what that one means.
Okay.
Everything else, though, I mean, probably up to interpretation.
Which is the best type of lyricism is stuff that's left up to the mind of the listener. And I think a lot of Brendan's songs are like that, so.
Oh, yeah.
And we are on House of Memories, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that song from TikTok.
Ugh.
Miss me a place in your house of memories.
I love this song. I really love this song.
It's way too good for TikTok.
It's so catchy.
You either
Maybe that's why they had to speed it up in most. Don't most TikToks have it sped up?
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see your favorite song get sped up and become a TikTok
You
song.
live long enough to become an influencer. That's the best way I can put it. And I don't think that it does any harm to the actual song itself, because you can't judge the song just because you judge it negatively just because you heard a TikTok.
I'm happy
6
that House of
years
Memories
later.
is finally getting the putting my cards on the table. I enjoyed this song a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it's finally getting for TikTok, for better or worse. Happy it's finally getting the credit that it deserves.
Because it's now up to 370 something million streams on Spotify, I believe.
Yeah, and it's
which is
gotten
nowhere
all those
close.
just within the last year.
Most of those,
Most
yeah.
of those. And in all of the promotion for the Viva Las Vengeance tour, he was using House of Memories in the promotional material.
I
so
remember
now
seeing
that's becoming his
that,
main
yeah.
song. I'm like, is this really what it took for you to add it to the set list?
Or to acknowledge the song in general. It's a banger. It really is.
Yeah.
It's good.
So good on whoever it was on TikTok to actually give that song the credit that it deserves. I'm starting to hear it in like grocery stores. I'm hearing it at different places in public. So it's crazy to hear that song of all Panic songs.
And it's cool. It's another reflection song. It's another song looking back and talking about. I can't tell if this one is he talking about a past relationship or
He's talking about a past relationship, and this is another one lyrically that I really enjoyed, putting it in the same category as the title track as Death of a Bachelor, because he's talking about, I have certain lyrics that he said memories turn into daydreams, become a taboo. It's talking about when you're looking back and longing for the past and past relationships when you're in one currently. It's like falling in. This whole song is about falling in love for the first time, not being familiar with all of these feelings that you have, wanting to look back at the past, but realizing I need to stay in the future. And he says in the bridge that the memories of past lovers will always haunt me and stuff like that. And how not to leave because of it. How everything he says, I don't want to be afraid. The further I go, it takes my breath away. Soft hearts, electric souls. Is this taboo? I think of you from time to time more than I thought I would. These are all feelings of someone who has never been in love before. And is just now experiencing all of these emotions.
You mentioned earlier, like, it's talking about somebody who's in a current relationship that just might not taste as sweet as the last one he was in.
I was going to say that it's the sweetest relationship he's ever had, but he can't. But it's going to take a bit to get rid of the past.
I look at it in a completely different way. I
Really?
look at it as, and again, I'm not quite as knowledgeable, haven't done quite as much research into this, but the way I would listen to it,
music.
and again,
Music is completely subjective.
up to the interpretation of the listener. I look at it as somebody who's in a relationship that's not nearly as good as the last one he was in. Talking about in the bridge, the deeper that I go, the deeper that I get into this new relationship, the past one takes my breath away just a little bit more, because you keep not wanting to hold on to this new person when you still have this other person you're still trying to recover from. That's the way I would listen to it, just because that's something I would relate to a little bit more, but I can totally see where you're coming from as well. with your interpretation of it. Again, it's why I love Panic, because most of their songs can be left up to interpretation.
And I love picking their songs apart, because I'm noticing with a lot of these songs, when I pick them apart and actually piece by piece and having them a bite at a time, I just love them even more.
Yeah.
It just it gives you a whole new sense of appreciation.
Some artists, the more in-depth you listen to their music and the deeper you dive into the meaning and the purpose behind a song, it almost does more harm to your appreciation than anything else. Panic's not one of those artists. Panic, the deeper that you go into their music and the deeper that you look into what goes into the writing and the production, it just makes you appreciate what they do even more, which is what I love about this album,
especially in this era.
Yes,
this was a very different era in Panic.
Agreed.
Like I think this my opinion might be their best era. I know you're impartial to Too Weird to Live, Too Rare to Die.
I'm impartial to 2011 to 2013 because that was Vice's straight into Too Rare to Live right after that. That 3-year period for me, when it was Brendan and Spencer, and then Brendan, Spencer, and Dallin, that was absolutely perfect.
Our favorite albums were in those eras. My favorite album is Vices and Virtues. Your favorite album is
Too Rare to Live.
Too Rare to Live.
It's right up there with Vices and Virtues. It's to me, I get more replay value out of Too Rare to Live.
I got to give Too Rare to Live another listen. I think I've only listened to it all the way through once. But there's just something. Vices, I could listen to on repeat nonstop. I could listen to it for a whole day and not get sick of it personally.
I've done it with both, so I understand. We are on the last one.
We are rounding it out with Impossible Year.
There's no sunshine this impossible year. Only black days and sky gray.
Okay.
Honestly, this is the song that I've listened to the least in total, which is weird. I already listened to it. I couldn't even remember how the song went. I hadn't listened to it that often. And I think it might be one of my favorites on the album, honestly. Because from the moment it started, my ears immediately, this is a Billy Joel song. The piano, it really kind of gives me the vibe of She's Got Away from his very first album, Cold Spring Harbor. It's like any other sort of ballad that Billy Joel's done on the piano. It's like a combination. It's like if She's Got Away was done during the Stormfront era, back when he was doing We Didn't Start the Fire. And you're speaking a different language to me right now, but I'm nodding my head anyway. I really started likening it to the song Leningrad. I still need to have you listen to these songs. He's like, oh yeah, you're like yeah, absolutely, man. You're like Marlin in Finding Nemo when they're going through the current. He's trying to speak to me. I know it. Yes, and I understand that you are saying words right now and they're coming out of your mouth. I am just not processing them. But you continue because you have good insight. Long story short, I get Billy Joel influences. Okay, it's primarily what I get. Yeah. And when he opens, like, there's no sunshine, I immediately want to say, on a cloudy day. I'm like, wait, no, wrong song. I start thinking it's My Girl or something. But I don't know why I never listened to this song, because the lyrics and the vocals and the instrumentation and the simplicity of it is beautiful. And how every verse kind of has a theme. Yeah. The first verse, he's talking about storm illusions, black days, sky gray, clouds full of fear, typhoons, monsoons. Second verse kind of gives you the feeling of a beach party with bitter people. Beach fronts of bad blood, yeah. The coast that's unclear, guests at the party are insincere, intrude, and exclude. Really paints a picture. It's like you're in the scene with him. And then the recurring theme in the third verse is talking about drugs and alcohol, but the way he tells it, he has such a brutal and heartbreaking image, but he paints it in such a beautiful way where he says, no, you and me, gin made of tears, which is a incredible line. Yes. Gin made of tears. Bitter pill I swallow, scars souvenir, that tattoo, your last bruise. So it's like the tattoo, like I interpret it as he got a tattoo of her and he regrets it because they're not together anymore. and Your Last Bruise. It's almost like they were in an abusive relationship, and he has regrets of that too. Scars, a Souvenir. I get some self-harm vibes from it. So anything that interprets sadness and being at the very lowest you could ever be, he finds a way to poetically state it in this song.
Yeah, I almost don't even look at it as a physical tattoo or a physical scar. I almost look at it as something so bad did happen to you in the past, or a past relationship that did scar you, that it didn't necessarily scar you externally on your skin, and it scarred you internally. So whenever you go, you're going around, you're carrying scars and tattoos and bruises of the past, and you can't get rid of them. Maybe from, I guess what he's referring to is the impossible year. But I agree, I did not listen to this song very much either when I first got into the album.
Think you're going to listen to it a lot more now?
Oh, and I have now listened to it a lot more.
It was stuck in my head before we recorded.
It's very much the cool down song after an intense cardio session. That's the way this song would be described.
Yes.
It is a much softer ballad. It's the ballad. He has a ballad at almost since he went on his own, even in 2013, with Too Rare to Live, every album concludes with a slower ballad, and this is that for Death of a Bachelor. But it's very catchy. It's so well written. Like you said, some of those lyrics, it's one of those that makes me sit, and I'm sitting there like, wow, how did you come up with this? How did you find a way to say this so poetically?
The lyrics are so simple, but so well thought out. So powerful. I keep mentioning the same exact thing for a lot of these songs, how he paints a picture. This song is it's almost like his words are brushstrokes. Just painting this picture of sadness and dismay.
Well, I literally picture a red ocean when he says beachfront of bad blood. I literally picture an ocean, like waves crashing in.
All of these songs, and Golden Days, I know you have your qualms with Golden Days, but
it's just not, I don't have qualms. It's better than most artists would do with any song, to be honest.
But comparatively to the rest of the album. But that one and this one, very visual. Like, you listen to it, and same for I keep mentioning all the songs you weren't a fan of. Don't Threaten Me with a Good Time. Yeah. All of those, the story they tell, you can see the visual in your head of what's going on, and it just really paints kind of a music video.
I can't believe we didn't mention the "Lost a Bet to a Guy in a chiffon skirt, but I make these high heels work" lyric in that, because that paints a picture for sure. Not a pleasant one, but it certainly paints a picture in your head. And
he doesn't even know that he foreshadowed his rolling kinky boots.
He does not. And that is something we can get into as well in a different episode. But I think that's one of Brendan's biggest. It's one of Brendan's, on this album at least. He does that very well on a lot of different songs. Is that he does paint pictures with his words. Now he does put you in his shoes. The real question
is, what do you think of closing the album with such a somber, heartbreaking song, such a high energy album where there's hardly any breaks for the first half of the album, and then ending it with a soul-crushing ballad? What do you think?
I think it fits. I think every album has to have I don't think every album has to have a nice, pretty little bow tied on top of it. Maybe this album isn't meant to have a happy ending, if you will. Or for that matter, any of his albums, because all of his albums pretty much end with a slower, more ballad type of song. I like it. I think this, to be honest, we were due a slower song. We were due a more...
And it hits harder after having so much energy prior, and then suddenly you're in this really somber kind of a piano bar type vibe.
Yeah.
And it really, you're going up, and then boom, he just brings you down, like, to close it all off.
The only other song on the album besides Death of a Bachelor, I would say, where you really feel like Brendan is serenading you with his words and his lyrics.
Honestly, from a serenading standpoint and a crooning kind of Sinatra standpoint, I would almost put this one higher than Death of a Bachelor as far as it comes to stylistically, because it's a lot more stripped down, and that's how songs were back then.
Yeah.
And I liken this one too. I get Sinatra vibes. Billy Joel, I definitely get some Queen vibes too in the way he kind of delivers.
There's some Queen vibes, I think, kind of sprinkled all over the album as well. But yes, absolutely.
But it's, I don't know. Thinking about it now, and I didn't make this note prior, I really think Death of a Bachelor is more of a concept album than you would think. Because I feel like there's a reason why he keeps mentioning all these drugs and alcohol and women and relationships and heartbreak and all that. He mentions all that throughout the album. And some of it is in a positive light. Like, don't threaten me with a good time. It sounds like a party song.
He is promoting that party lifestyle.
He is promoting that lifestyle. And then with Emperor's New Clothes, he's promoting sinning and just making mistakes, living life, indulging. And he ends up referencing it again in this last song in an extremely depressing light. It's almost like saying, yeah, we have this lifestyle, have all these different things, but I still feel like crap. So it really is kind of a concept album. And we have all this, but look what it's done for me.
That's funny too, because you get to the next album and it's the same exact type of song about the same exact type of thing. You have all this stuff and you still feel like you're dying here in
Talk
LA.
about dying in LA.
Yeah, he closes.
Yeah,
and even the end of all things from his prior album, it's very much just a kind of somber reflection on the rest of the songs and the rest of and everything else he was singing about ahead of time. And I think it's kind of, I would almost describe it as Brendan coming down from like a high, or kind of waking up and having that. You talk about being a concept album, maybe Impossible Year is the morning after. It represents the morning after when you're kind of coming to terms with everything that happened the night before.
Your moment of clarity, as alcoholics would call it.
Yes, that realization is setting in. I think that's kind of what, again, open to interpretation, obviously, but that's kind of what this song represents.
What a bow to put on the album. I can't believe I hardly listened to this one. Because it hit hard when I was listening to it. I'm like, wait, this is how it ended?
When you click on that picture and that album cover of Brendan sitting out there, almost naked in the pool, you're clicking on that album cover because you want some energetic bops. Like, that's what you're looking for. You don't really go to Death of a Bachelor if you're like, I want to think and feel and like really soak in the emotions of one of these songs.
And when you're looking at the album art while listening to the high energy ones, it suits it.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at it while listening to this song, it suits it. Because you look past the bright colors, you look past the lights of it. You see a car drowning in a pool and a man passed out on the ceiling.
It's the moment of clarity.
You strip away all of the lights, you strip away all the bright colors, and you just see it bare bones as it is.
It's the moment of clarity, like you said.
What?
That should be the episode title. Just gonna throw that in there. Moment of clarity. Death of a Bachelor. I like that. But anyways, does that not bring us to our final ratings for the album?
What are your final thoughts of the album as a whole?
Okay. I certainly believe this to be one of Brendan's best. I think it's up there. It's top 3 for me. I'd probably put it at number 3. And that's not to say that it is deserving of such a low spot considering he's only got 6 outputs at this point. I think it just says more about the top 2 than anything else. I like how this album was a clear transition of sound. Even if you didn't follow Panic at the Disco and had no idea they had lost 2 band members and then 3 band members before that, you could listen to 2013's Too Rare to Live and then listen to 2015's Death of a Bachelor and be like, okay, wow, this sounds so much different. They are clearly going for a different type of sound here, a different type of vibe.
And that's for every album. They always go for something different. But in this one, the experimentation they did paid off the most that it ever had.
And I would say it might be the most, I'd call it the riskiest experimentation. Ambitious, yes. Because think about the type of fans that Panic cultivated when they first came out. That was a very punk rock / emo type of fan base. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
It's the type of music that they'd be playing in Hot Topic. You wouldn't play quite as many of the songs from this album in a Hot Topic or something like that. And
I feel like that comes with them maturing.
Yeah.
Like, his sound has matured. They were this angsty kind of pop punk, seems the artists these days are not who you think, kind of just being all angsty and rah rah kind of stuff.
But now he's a married man.
Yeah, now he's a married man.
He's doing this on his own. This is his solo output now. And I think I also think he gets he takes a lot more suggestions maybe from outside producers on this one, which isn't a bad thing. I think it works out well for him.
I think they led him in the right directions.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
One of my only qualms was going to be how much drugs and alcohol are mentioned, but I'm so glad we discussed that last track because that was a moment of clarity for me, how it just rounded the entire album out. So I am totally fine with him talking about the same stuff throughout the entire album if that's the way it ends.
Yeah.
Because it really drives the entire point home.
Shifts
Again,
the point of view from the beginning to the end.
again, I still think that for me, Crazy equals Genius, and honestly, I think Hallelujah were kind of low points for me. Again, even the songs that I'm not a big fan of are incredible songs.
Yeah.
But they just weren't hitting as much for me. But this album definitely shines, even in spite of the subjective opinions that I have of it.
The only songs I would say that I don't necessarily I semi-enjoy. Let me put it into perspective. Panic at the Disco is one of my favorite artists. And I know it's one of yours too.
Oh, yeah. Like,
we're not
definitely
hiding
my
our
top
bias here. And most of our favorite artists, they have few songs that we would genuinely consider to just not be good songs, in our opinions. Golden Days and Good, Bad, and Ugly, and Dirty, sorry.
Middle of a breakup.
Okay, yeah, and we'll get into that when that comes out. But those are songs that the Golden Days and Good, Bad, and the Ugly, the Dirty, Good and the Bad and the Dirty, sorry, are two
Start
songs
hearing
that
the ecstasy of gold going off in my head. I'm like,
those are ones that don't have any replay value to me. I wouldn't put on if someone told me to play Death of a Bachelor, I'd probably skip over both of those. And they're one after another, so it's convenient, but those are just two that I don't think are up there anywhere near the top of their discography. But other than that, there aren't too many low points on this album. I really do enjoy it, and I think it's quality almost from start to finish, with a few hiccups on the middle of the road.
all right. Our final star ratings. This is how we're going to do it. For every episode, we're going to do it a little unique, a little different. We're two guys, so we're each going to give a certain amount of stars out of 5.
Are we doing stars, or are we doing something like instead of stars?
What do you think it should be instead of stars?
What's a good Panic type of
Wait,
reference?
I think I actually wrote something down.
All right, then. Again, way more prepared than I am.
How about out of 5 wine-stained Polaroids?
That's perfect. So, I'll ask you then in that case. How many wine-stained Polaroids, I think that's right, out of 5 would you give Death of a Bachelor?
I gave this one a solid 4.
A solid 4. Okay. I gave this one a 3 out of 5.
So
Wine-stained Polaroids. Right? I got that right. Wine-stained Polaroids.
Yes.
Again,
I tried to make it as complicated for you as possible. I want to
Okay.
make sure that you get it completely wrong so I can
Wine-stained Polaroids.
properly chastise you.
I like the lyrics of LA Devotee that I got wrong, embarrassingly enough. It's not centerfolds, it's swimming pools, apparently.
Your brain was just somewhere different. I don't know
Yes,
what
it
you were
was.
doing when you heard it. But
You don't want to. Anyways.
4
Anyways.
out of 3. I gotta clear my history because you were looking that crap up.
You mean 4 plus 4?
4 plus 3. 4, 5, 6, 7 out of 10 wine-stained Polaroids
That's solid.
for Panic at the Disco's Death of a Bachelor.
That's a 70 out of 100 if we were doing it like that. And that's a C on the grading scale.
Hey,
And
C's getting degrees.
Yes, C's are solid.
You and I know that.
I am
more than
surprised it
anyone.
only came out to a C though. Before doing this, I certainly thought this was going to end up a little higher. Again, not that neither of us. I know I love this album. I know you do
I
too.
honestly thought you were going to rank it higher. I thought we were going to completely agree. Like, even though we disagreed on some songs, I thought that we were clicking enough to where we were both going to think, yeah, this is about a 4, because I know it's not perfect. Not perfect.
When
5.
you look at it though, it's more of, here's my thing. Let me adjust my rating real quick, because if I was doing this out of 10, I would have given
Let me
it
get the wine out so I can put some a little more Polaroids or wipe some of them off.
If I was doing this out of 10 instead of 5, I would have given this a 7. So logically, that makes this a 3.5 out of 5 for me. I didn't really do the math right in my head because I usually rank out of 10. But if I was doing this out of 10, I'd give this a 7 out of 10. So cut that in half. That's 3.5.
So it's a 7.5
It's a
out of 10 for
7.5 out of
us.
10, which makes more sense.
Tack a 0.5 on there.
Yeah,
sure,
but-
that 0.5 makes all the difference.
I felt like there was less wiggle room with 5 instead of 10, but no. If we can do 0.5s, which I didn't know we could do, I guess that's allowed. We can do 0.5s, right? Okay. You guys should cut one of the wine-stained
You do
Polaroids in
0.5
half.
and you do 0.25. It's just if you start getting too complicated, I'll have to whip out the calculator because I'm
Okay.
already. You heard me having to count out loud.
Well, cut one of those wine-stained Polaroids in half. 3.5 wine-stained Polaroids.
just cut it
for
in
me.
half. Just snip, 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 snip.
Yes, and
There you
I
go.
give it 3.5 then in that case. So 3.5 out of 5, 7 out of 10. But combine our ratings and we get a 7.5 out of 10.
Death of a Bachelor, solid album, perfect way to kick off the podcast.
Yeah.
And it was great to do an album that we know and love, but next week not necessarily going to be the same story. We got our warm-up, we got our toes wet a little bit, but next week, be sure to load up on guns and bring your friends. This is Connoisseurs on the record, and we'll see y'all next week.
Bye, everybody.